Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 29th August, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. So the first article for the day is a very important development, and this is taken from the Indian Express. So the news item is about simultaneous elections. So the Prime Minister's office held a meeting recently with representatives from Election Commission and the Law Ministry to discuss the possibility of having a common electoral roll. So this common electoral roll will be used for urban local body election, panchayat election. It will be used for election to the state legislative assembly and also to the parliament. So this is like a common electoral roll for every kind of an election. So in this meeting there were two options which were discussed. The first one is Article 243K and Article 243ZA amendment. So what does this article say? Each of these articles, let us have a look. So basically the common point between both these articles and the summary of these articles is the fact that till now State Election Commission is empowered to prepare electoral rolls for panchayats and urban local bodies. Now this amendment shall persuade the states to amend the State Election Commission's mandate and create this common electoral roll so that it unifies all the electoral rolls and makes it easy for the Election Commission to handle. So basically it gives us the data required for handling various elections. So in this context it is important to go back to the basics. The Election Commission at the central level is given the mandate of conducting elections to Parliament, State Legislative Assembly, State Legislative Councils, and also the election of President and also Vice President. So this is the mandate of Election Commission. But whereas the elections to the local bodies are concerned, there is no need for the State Election Commission to organize its election with the help of Election Commission. That is to say, there is no need for the State Election Commission to intimate the Central Election Commission. Also in this case, each state has a separate law for their respective state election commissions. However, in practice, many states actually directly use the electoral rolls of Election Commission for local body elections. There are, however, a few states, for example, UP, Uttarakhand, Orissa, etc., and also in the southern state of Kerala, there is no such practice where Election Commission's electoral rolls are used for local body elections. So what is the importance of having this single voter list or a unified electoral roll? So even before this proposal came up, the Law Commission in its 255th report in 2015 said that should consider this common electoral roll, and EC2 adopted a similar stance in 1999 and 2004. So it is not a new recommendation that we are seeing right now, or the proposal made by PMO is not a new one. So the government has pitched a common electoral roll and simultaneous elections as a way to save enormous amount of money. So this is considered a prerequisite for going towards simultaneous elections. So this will also avoid duplication of effort, and as well as fake electoral cards can be removed. In the coming days there might be a lot of articles surrounding this news. So it is very important article. Please revise your basics on Election Commission and State Election Commission on Article 243. The second article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled An Act of God, Coercive Not Cooperative Federalism. So this article is in the context of GST compensation fund. So when the law was created and it started its implementation way back in 2017, according to the law, there was a compensation cess which was levied upon certain sin goods to ensure that if the state's revenue falls below 14%, then in that case center shall give a certain compensation from this compensation cess fund for a period of 5 years, that is till 2022. Now in the present context, we have had a shock in the form of a pandemic. Now let us have a look at both the sides of the economy, that is the supply side as well as the demand side. Even before the pandemic started, Indian economy is slowing down. We all know this fact. If you take a look at the economy, there are two sides. One is the supply side and the other is the demand side. Now whatever the government has done can be categorized under monetary policy and fiscal policy. Basically, monetary policy is actually taken care by RBI and the Monetary Policy Committee. And whenever we're talking about fiscal policy, it is basically the finance ministry which is handling most of the things in tandem with other efforts of the ministries like Ministry of Commerce, etc. So basically it is all about ease of doing business, easing the structural bottlenecks which cause pain to the businesses. So whether it is about encouraging the startups, giving tax benefits, and all those factors which are in the hands of the government, it is taken care by the fiscal policy. RBI has done whatever it can through issues like long-term repo operations or Operation Twist, infusing more capital into the hands of banks, and even NBFCs have a sort of a credit guarantee scheme, but nothing has been done to address this demand side. To simply put, we need to put more money into the hands of people to see any sort of an effect. Yesterday there was a news item which was speaking about what RBI Governor Mr. Shaktikanta Das opined. So in that he said that even though RBI has done everything, banks are reluctant to lend money to the people. In reply to this, many people or many officers from the Indian Bankers Association came up with a reply saying that banks are not risk averse. They are just being very safe when they are lending. It doesn't mean that they are risk averse. They just want to ensure that further bad loans don't pile up in their bank sheets and cause problem to the economy. The real problem, according to the Indian Banker Association, is the fact that there has been a demand slump and nobody is taking any sort of a loan because of the uncertainty that is prevailing in our economy. We don't know when the virus is going to subside. We don't know when the vaccine is going to come. If at all the vaccine is coming, who gets the vaccine first? When will be normalcy be seen again? Nobody knows anything. So basically demand has come to a standstill and therefore economy is suffering. So naturally when demand is suffering, goods and services tax will obviously take a hit, especially in states. Now states gave up their power to tax and all the indirect taxes which were under the state were subsumed under GST. This was done by ensuring that they'll have a 14% revenue guarantee. And if at all this 14% revenue guarantee is hit, the center promised that they would pay a compensation for those states. Now in this backdrop, almost all the states took a hit because of the slowdown. Now obviously according to the law, the onus is on the center to give more money or put more money into the hands of the people, and therefore it is indirectly responsible for putting more money into the hands of the states. But what the government has done in this context is it has said that the money of GST revenue shortfall, it is not because of revenue shortfall, but it is because of pandemic. So in normal contracts, whenever there are corporate deals done, there is something called force majeure. So in this, any unforeseen circumstance is looked upon by the contracting parties, and if they don't honor that, force majeure clause can come into picture if there are unforeseen circumstances like say floods, etc. This act of God is a direct reference to the force majeure clause, but there is no such clause in the GST law. So the central government cannot use this act of God as a explanation or an excuse for not putting more money into the hands of the states. So this is a sort of a breach of trust between the center and states. That is what the article writer opines. So if you take a look at the GST Council, which was created by amending Article 279 Clause A, basically 2/3 of the majority is given to the states, and 1/3 majority or 1/3 representation, I beg your pardon, 1/3 representation for the value of vote is given to the center. But to arrive at any decision, there is a necessity of 75% in favor of the decision that is being taken. So basically, even if all the states agree, it will only be 66%. Unless and until the central government agrees to a particular clause or that decision taken by the GST Council, nothing can be done. So a sort of a veto is given to the central government. So this needs to be corrected, and there should be equal representation for both the center and the states. So this should be taken as a lesson, and going forward, the teething issues in GST should be corrected. Now there is a possibility that states might withdraw from this entire mechanism of GST, which is ideologically very good because it will reduce the burden on the consumers. But the problem is the way in which we are implementing GST. So we need to iron out all these issues going forward. That is the gist of this article.